What's up, Mr. Tsunami here. My first video on my YouTube channel. Woo! Yeah. So I'll just present myself first because it's only logical. My name is Olavo Gabriel. I am Mr. Tsunami, yours truly. I was born in Brazil. I'm living in Germany and I'm bored and I have to go in a little bit, so I'll try to make this video quick. Yeah, that is who I am, basically, and that is not the topic of this video because I wouldn't like to begin my YouTube channel only presenting myself. I think you already see who I am through other videos, if I do them. I'm not promising shit. But anyway, what's the topic of this one? I thought to myself that it would be quite logical to start with things or topics that people already know or that people think they understand. Things or concepts that could be seen as a way of living or an everyday concept. Things that we think or ways from which we think that we don't think about. So like when you eat something, you generally know that's good for you or that you need that because you need food to survive. And these are things that we don't really think about in our everyday life, and we really should, because these are basic things. Everyone knows from birth, generally speaking, how to breathe, how to blink. So we don't think about these things, and we shouldn't. Problem is, what happens when we start to apply that not thinking about something because it's so necessarily abnormal for us? What if we what if we start to apply these kinds of things and concepts, such as good and evil? The problem with good and evil is that it doesn't exist. Differently from the air we breathe, we don't think about these kinds of things because we already know that they exist and that they are a part of life, and that we cannot run away from these kinds of things, except if we are dead, of course. So you cannot try to live a life without breathing. You cannot, okay, maybe you could try to live a life without blinking, but it wouldn't really make that much sense. Thing is, like, good and evil don't exist. They are simply a way of seeing things, a way that we invented to understand things better. Let me give you this example. If I don't know who I am, if I am good or evil, I don't understand myself, and I compare myself to someone else, if that person, in my own perspective, is in certain aspects better than me, I would say that person is good because they're kind, or they have good intentions, etc., etc., etc. And the same thing if that person is worse than me. If that person has done things that I find generally bad and worse than things I've done, I would say that person is evil and I'm good. The thing is, like, it's completely subjective. Good and evil are subjective things. You cannot say something is pure evil or pure good because there is no pure evil, just like there is no pure good. When we invent a concept to try to understand things better, we try to describe the way we rationalize as beings. When we break it all down and we take more than one step back, we see that good and evil may not exist in itself, but they are based upon things that do. And how I like to see it, so that we have a balance between accepting that there are good things and evil things, and accepting that they don't exist, and it's all very tricky. But what I like to think is that good and evil isn't good and evil. Good is simply positive, and evil is simply negative. And thing is, this positive and negative mindset usually only comes after you've done something. So, in a way, if I drink this water and nothing happens, how would that look like? Like, I drink the water, I don't react to it, my brain doesn't really feel the water coming in, my body doesn't change. There's no reaction to that action. So there was no action at all. Now, let's say, just like normal, I drink this water. And most of the effects will be positive. So I would say that it's something good. I could also say drinking water is universally good. But it isn't, because I just say that because the water will act positive in me, or it will have positive effects. But if we had another species who just, I don't know, cannot survive with water, they would see it completely different. Now, is that even important at all? Yes. That is very important to understanding good and evil. Because good and evil is just like time. Time is based on something that exists, that is movement. Movement exists, and without time, there is no movement. Or basically, if you have time, you have movement. We are structured in a way, just like a computer, that we will react automatically, positive or negatively, towards something coming towards us, for example. So someone does an action, or we do an action, and our brain automatically has this big chain of reactions that come after one another. And that's all what good and evil really is. It's simply a human instinct, the instinct of positivity and negativity. Not in the way of, I'm such a positive person, I'm more like concepts, not that kind of positivity or negativity. It's very senseless to try to understand good or evil, because good or evil is just a consequence of this positive and negative mindset or instinct. It is simply a more complicated variation of it. When I say that person killed, so that person is evil, what I'm actually saying is that person has done so much negative things, or has done so many things that led to negative outcomes, that I don't believe that person can do anything that will lead to a positive outcome. That would be pure evil. Someone who does things, and it doesn't matter how they do it or how long it takes, their impact will always be negative. There will not be one single positive outcome out of it. That will be pure evil, but that doesn't exist. When you punch someone and that person's on the ground laying on the floor, and you do that every day, and you punch every day one person, in a week, 7 people will be on the ground, 3 will stand up and will start training because they don't want that to happen anymore. And the other 4 will stay down, and they will start to cry or to think they're weak and get that negative consequence. In the end, everything we are, or everything what consciousness even is simply categorizing yourself, categorizing everything around you, trying to have a better understanding of what is around you, because you simply have this drive to do it. That is the drive to have wisdom, the drive to understanding, the thing I'm doing right now. If you'd ask me, is there a God? I'd say no. Not in the way that we imagine it. If there is a God, there is no devil. I don't believe there could be a devil if there was a God. Because God wouldn't be good, and God wouldn't be evil. God would simply be the creator of all things. He wouldn't have created good and evil. I don't believe that. I believe that it's not even an invention from us. I think calling it something invented is kind of doing it wrong, because it's a form of perspective. Just like we measure time, we measure for ourselves how much something is positive and how much something is negative. Another example based upon religion is if you have a God and you have a devil, the God will see the devil as evil. And the devil would see God as evil. But that wouldn't really make sense. If things were really balanced, if good and evil really existed, if there were things you can measure, the devil would be able to recognize God for the good that he is, even if he doesn't admit it. Which I don't think it's the case. I think when evil people are truly evil, they wouldn't be able to see the good in the world, because if they were able to see the good in the world, even if they don't accept it, they have good in them. And that is the point. There cannot be pure evil and there cannot be pure good, because there will always be another way of seeing things that would say these things are not good or evil. And if that in itself is based upon perspective, even if many people say something is right, or something is evil or good, if that in itself is based upon perspective, how could we decide what is good or what is right or wrong, what is good or evil? We can't. We just assume we know what it is because we've been we were raised to think that way. We were raised to believe that there are some things that are inherently evil and things that are inherently good. But again, we are too complex as beings to be described that way. We shouldn't limit ourselves to such small concepts like good or evil. I think we should try to stay more neutral. We shouldn't use words to which we have such an emotional attachment to, because thinking things are good and evil is an emotional conclusion and doesn't make it any more senseless than a logical conclusion. Of course not, because what reality in itself is based upon yourself, because reality isn't something. Reality is this, all this, what you're seeing, that is reality. Don't try to describe reality, because you can't. You can't use words to describe what is and what isn't. It simply is. So it's really not that important. Like, why should we care if there is pure good or pure evil? If in the earth we live in this fucked up species we always have an origin. No one is born evil, no one is born good. There always has a reason. But let's say they are born evil. Let's say there is a person who was born with certain things that you could describe as evil. Does that mean evil exists? No. Does that mean that person is evil in itself? Because is a person who was born evil more evil than someone who chose to become evil? See where I'm getting at? These descriptions are more often than not used to win an argument, to say it doesn't matter what you think is the origin of this action is evil, so I don't have to know the origin. Which I think is false. I think it's important to know what's behind actions and why people did the things they do, even though we will never know what the other person is truly thinking. We can guess. And we can assume that a person won't do certain actions even if they are not telling the truth. That's basically how law works. Now, where am I going with all this? Do I ever reach a conclusion? Do I ever have a point I want to come to? Yes, I have a point. It's all going... I'm gonna get there, okay? I'm gonna get there. Point is, it is senseless to think about good and evil. Imagine positive and negative. More neutral. A better way to start understanding others is to try to understand what could have led to that moment. Of course, you shouldn't always give that number one priority. Always give yourself number one priority. Number two is stuff like family, etc., etc. But you have always to come in first place. That doesn't mean that you have to protect yourself at all costs. We already have a survival instinct. It just means that when you are in a position where someone wants to take something from you and you know you won't get anything back from them, you have to respect yourself and say, nah, I'm not gonna go through with this. I'm not gonna waste my energy so that I can get nothing out of you. Having self-respect is very important. And when we categorize things as good and evil, and we start categorizing ourselves as evil because we have these bad thoughts, or we have these fucked up fantasies or whatever, we start to see ourselves as evil, and we start to see ourselves as unredeemable. You know what word I'm trying to say. Someone who cannot become good at all. Which I don't think is true, because you cannot be good and you cannot be evil. You can simply try to live your life the most positive way, either for you or for you and others, or only for others. It's your life. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to be egoistical. Just try to live a life that will lead to the most positive outcomes there is. If you have someone who you think is evil, do you think judging that person, coming at that person with pitchforks and torches on fire and shit like that, do you think that will lead to a positive outcome? Do you think that you hating evil will lead to any place at all? What if you didn't do that? What if you try to understand them? Not reason with them or try to make them better about themselves for what they did, because that's a journey that they have to go through on their own. I'm talking about treating people, regardless of what they've done, as normal people, because they haven't done anything to you, and they haven't done anything that you know of. So, in your own perspective, it doesn't matter what you've heard from people or what you assume that person could be. They are not evil, and they haven't been negative to you. So in itself, there is no reason, besides these principles that most people have, for being negative towards that person. Negativity will always lead to more negativity, and positivity will always lead to more positivity, or usually, not always. That's why good and evil don't exist. Also, that's also a reason, because good can lead to evil, evil can lead to good. There is good and evil, there is evil and good, etc., etc. So just keep in mind, always stay aware of the origins, the processes, the consequences. Always be aware that if someone comes home and they don't treat you right and they start screaming at you or whatever, or start arguing, what is the thing you could do that would lead to the most positive outcome? Maybe not for that person at all, maybe only for you. Maybe you can just walk away for a while, just go at the park, chill there for 15 minutes and come back, so that the person has time to think and cool down, because that stress didn't come from home, it came from the outside. But if you put more fucking oil on the fire, then the fire will get bigger. Even if you think that person deserves to be also screamed at because they screamed at you, if you do that, negative outcome. That's unavoidable. So yeah, keep in mind, good and evil don't exist. There's always an origin, and there will always be a consequence. And oh, I'm getting called. Oh no, it's just my alarm. So shut up, fuck up. Yeah. Conclusion, I've already said that. Good and evil don't exist. They are only concepts, not made up by us, but developed through us. And in itself, it's just positivity and negativity. Keep the origins in mind. Keep the consequences in mind. Keep yourself in the relationship of self between self and others. Keep that in mind, because that is very, very, very important. And don't judge people, because it leads nowhere. Don't judge people. Don't try to pretend you understand them. Just be there for you. If they haven't done anything for you, or if they haven't done anything to you, be there for them. Because why wouldn't you? It would only lead to better outcomes, to better consequences, to a better future, to a good future. Funny thing is, if everyone would see good and evil for what it really is, maybe then we could really find what is good and evil, if it really exists as concepts. But in the society that we live in right now, and the way that we developed as a species, it's just not possible. Unfortunately. And it probably won't ever be. But we can understand what we have developed, and we can understand positivity and negativity, origins, consequences, past, future, and the relationship with the present. So yeah, just stay woke. Don't feed into this fucking loophole or paradox of negativity. Don't get into that. Just be as positive as you can. As positive as you think the other person deserves or needs or whatever. But when you start to get negative and life starts being shitty to you, don't tell me I didn't warn you. Mr. Tsunami out. I hope you had some fun and you've learned a thing or two. Damn, 24 minutes. I'll be going now. Bye-bye.